Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about a deeply emotional and historical drama, Hamnet. This film is inspired by the famous novel about the life of the family of William Shakespeare. But instead of focusing on Shakespeare's fame, the story looks at something much more personal: love, loss, and the pain that shaped one of the greatest writers in history. So, if you enjoy emotional historical movies with powerful storytelling, this one is definitely worth discussing. Introduction to the story. The story of Hamnet takes us back to 16th century England, long before Shakespeare became a legendary playwright. Instead of focusing on the stage or theater, the film centers on his family life, especially his wife Agnes and their children. The film begins in a quiet countryside village where life moves slowly and simply. People depend on nature, traditions, and close family bonds. In this peaceful setting, we meet Agnes, a mysterious and strong woman who understands nature and herbs and seems to have a deep connection with the world around her. Agnes is not portrayed as just the wife of a famous man. Instead, the film shows her as an independent and emotional character who carries the heart of the story. When she meets young William, there's a quiet but powerful connection between them. Their relationship grows naturally, and soon they build a family together. Life seems hopeful and full of warmth, but the movie slowly reminds us that happiness can be fragile. The family and the children. Agnes and William eventually have 3 children. Among them are twins, Hamnet and Judith. The twins share a special bond. They grow up playing together, exploring nature, and living a carefree childhood in the countryside. Their relationship is one of the most touching parts of the film. The movie spends time showing these peaceful family moments. Instead of rushing the story, it lets the audience feel the warmth of this family, their laughter, their daily routines, and their love for each other. William, however, often travels away from home for work in the theater world. This creates a quiet distance between him and his family. Agnes becomes the center of the household, raising the children and managing life while her husband is away. Even though William loves his family, the film shows how ambition and responsibility slowly create emotional gaps. The tragedy. At the heart of Hamnet lies a heartbreaking tragedy. One day, illness arrives in the town, something that people in those times feared deeply because medicine was limited and diseases spread quickly. When one of the twins falls sick, the peaceful life of the family suddenly becomes fear and uncertainty. The film handles this moment with incredible emotional depth. Instead of dramatic action, the story focuses on silence, anxiety, and the helpless feeling of parents watching their child suffer. What happens next changes the family forever. Hamnet dies at a young age. This moment becomes the emotional core of the entire movie. The loss is devastating for Agnes. Her grief feels overwhelming, and the world around her feels empty. The film shows how grief affects different people in different ways. Agnes becomes quiet and distant, lost in memories of her son. William, on the other hand, struggles to understand his emotions. Being away from home for so long makes the loss even harder to face. The family that once felt full of life now feels broken. Grief and healing. One of the most powerful aspects of Hamnet is how it explores grief. Instead of quickly moving on, the film takes time to show how loss changes people. Agnes carries the memory of Hamnet everywhere. Every place in the house reminds her of him. Even simple things, a toy, a piece of clothing, or a familiar path become painful reminders. The movie beautifully shows how grief can reshape a person's identity. William also tries to deal with his emotions, but he does so in a different way, through storytelling. Over time, the audience begins to understand something important. The tragedy of losing his son eventually influenced one of the most famous plays ever written. The connection to Shakespeare's work. The title Hamnet has a deep historical connection.
Many historians believe that the death of Shakespeare's son inspired the emotional depth of his later work, especially the play Hamlet. The film does not present this idea in a dramatic or obvious way. Instead, it gently suggests that great art often grows out of deep personal pain. William begins to pour his feelings into writing. Through stories and characters, he tries to understand grief, loss, and the meaning of life. In a way, the tragedy of Hamnet becomes part of something much larger, a piece of art that would live for centuries. Cinematography and atmosphere. Visually, Hamnet is expected to be a very atmospheric film. The countryside landscapes, candlelit homes, and quiet village life create a beautiful but melancholy mood. The pacing of the movie is slow and thoughtful, allowing viewers to truly feel the emotions of the characters. The music and sound design also play an important role. Soft background music and natural sounds help create a reflective and emotional experience. This is not an action-packed movie. Instead, it is a quiet and deeply human story. Final thoughts. Overall, Hamnet is not just a historical drama. It is a story about family, love, and the pain of losing someone you cannot replace. The film reminds us that behind great art and famous names are real human experiences. By focusing on Agnes and the family rather than Shakespeare's fame, the movie tells a unique and emotional story that feels deeply personal. It shows how grief can change people, but also how creativity can transform pain into something meaningful. If you enjoy emotional historical films, powerful performances, and stories that stay with you long after the movie ends, Hamnet is definitely a film to watch. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon for more movie reviews and story explanations. See you soon!